So my name is Anna McNally. I'm going to be answering your questions today. I am a SAGE certified consultant as well as a payroll compliance practitioner. I've been practicing payroll for about over 15 years. So let's start with our questions. Erin, what's our first question?
So first question is, how can I find out how much vacation has been accrued?
Okay, that's a good question. So I have my Sage 300 open in a sample company. So there are two ways to find out how much of a vacation has been accrued for an employee, whether you're accruing dollars or whether you're accruing hours. So the first is to go under payroll employees, under employee activity. You type in the employee number, and on the third tab, it will list the vacation, sick, or bank time accruals. And then you can scroll over and it will tell you how much is remaining. So this is just a quick way for you to see as of today what the balance is. So that's one way. The other way to find out that information is to go under payroll transaction reports and look at your accruals. And you have different reports that you can print here. So you have your vacation, your sick, your bank, and then the different formats. So if you want to look at a summary, a current balance, which is as of today, a carryover log if you need to find out additional information, but all four options here will provide information on vacation accruals. Thank you. Any other questions?
We have one more right here. Can you show how to set up a code that will pay 10% vacation on each check?
So to set up a brand new payroll code, you're going to go to Payroll Setup. You're going to select Earnings and Deductions. And I'm going to create one called V10 for 10%. Or what I suggest you actually do is not put in a percentage at all. I'm just going to create a code called V, vacation percent. Now, because this is being paid every pay, what you're going to do is you're going to select a correct earning code. Now, we're not accruing it, so this is not an accrual. It would be an earning, and it would be your salary and wages. But over here, you're going to say that it is a percentage of base, which means calculate a percent off of an earning code. And then you're going to select, of course, your frequency. Your level has to be greater than the codes that you're going to be calculating the 10% off. So in Sage 300, earning codes are typically set up as a level 10. So we want this to be at least 15, and you don't want it to be higher than 20 because 20 is codes that are subject to tax, and we want this to be subject to tax. So 15 is a good number. You identify if you wanted to print on the check, if you want a workman's compensation, and then under the method, you can change any of these. So for example, if you need to report instead of code 14, you need to report on code 71, you can change it. Otherwise, it defaults to code 14. I recommend leaving the percentage blank. And then when you add this to an employee, at that time, you can say for this particular employee, it's 10%. And maybe for a different employee with a different requirement, it may be 6%. You add the different taxes that are applicable. So your CPP, your CPP2, your EI, your income taxes, so on and so forth. And then once you have all your taxes under the calc base, oops, I got the wrong CPP. Under the calc base, you're going to click on regular. If you are using the Sage overtime and shift setup, then you would select those two as well. And you're going to put in all codes that are subject to be calculated off of. So for example, I'm going to select hourly, perhaps bonus, all the codes that you need. And then lastly, under the GL, you're going to put in your GL distribution. So once this code is set up, you're going to assign it to an employee. So I'm going to show you, I actually have one already set up here with that exact scenario, and I'm going to show you how we set it up on an employee profile. So under the employee, you bring up the employee for which you want to set up the code for. And under our pay tab is where we have a code. So this is a different code. We're going to select the one that I set up as a sample here for you. So we're going to hit earnings and vacation. So We've got a couple codes here. We want one for each pay. So that's the one I set up here. And this is where, because I did not put the percentage when I set up the code, I can actually put the percentage here, 10%. And I can use the same code for another employee. And for that employee, we can change this to a 4, a 6, an 8, or something else. And every time payroll is run, they would get paid 10% of the earnings that we added under the code that was set up. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, we got one here. How do we switch vacation from accrual basis to payout in each pay stub?
Okay, so I'm assuming, and if I'm not correct, please put in the chat, clarify, that you have an employee who's been accruing vacation, and now you want to switch them to an employee who is getting paid out each pay. So you would have to turn off the original code that's accruing on their employee's profile, and you would have to add the new code to it, the one that's being paid out. And the other questions I would ask a follow-up to that one is, are you going to pay out what's been accrued? I'm assuming you are, in which case you're going to pay it out using the accrued code, and then the other code would take over once you turn it on. So that is, I have an employee who's accruing vacation, and now I want them to get paid vacation every 2 weeks. So you turn off the accrual code after you've paid it out. And then once you turn it off, you add the new code, and then that code starts calculating going forward and paying each pay. That's a good question.
Perfect. And they did confirm that, yes, it will pay out accrual balance.
Yes, perfect.
Okay,
Yes,
and
because
we
I
have,
don't know if most of you know that when you set up an accrual in the system, that accrual is not only used to accrue vacation or sick, but it's also used to pay. So on the time card, when you add it to the time card, the same code, it defaults to payment. So any accrual codes that you set up could be used to accrue and pay. So one code does both functions.
okay, perfect. Is there a way to automatically pay all vacation accrued with employee's last pay? Employee is no longer working.
Yes, so we can't do that easily in Sage 300 without going to an extra process. So what the process is run the final pay without the vacation pay, unless you're paying vacation on vacation, if they're taking it as time off. So run the final pay and identify what the vacation accrual amount is for that final pay. And then add a time card. If this is a salary, you can add a time card, add the accrual to it. After you find out what they've accrued previously, add that amount plus the amount that you just calculated the last pay on as a payout, and that will pay out a vacation that was earned on the last paycheck as well as vacation that they had accrued.
I have another question here. How do I know what payroll codes to include in the payroll calculation?
I'm thinking that means, how do I know what codes are subject to vacation? So that is always a good question. Every once in a while, I do get a call from somebody who isn't sure. So there are a couple things that you can do. If you're a member with the National Payroll Institute, you could go online and log in and get that information. You can also go to employment standards and find out in your jurisdiction what is covered or not. But typically, the type of earnings that are included in vacationable earnings for all jurisdictions would be regular wages or salary, including call-in pay, shift premiums, retroactive pay, commissions, bonuses. All of these are subject to be included in the vacation. Now, in things like overtime pay, some jurisdictions do not allow that to be included. So for example, um, jurisdictions except Alberta and Manitoba do not pay vacation on overtime pay. Bonuses, every organization every jurisdiction will pay vacation on that. And there are a couple other ones as well. So best to look at online under your local So the jurisdiction that you have employees under, look at the employment standards for the provinces so that you can be sure that you have the correct codes included in your vacation calculation.
How did you calculate the rate to accrue vacation hours?
Okay, so you can accrue hours per hours worked or hours per frequency. That is one of the types of codes that you have here. When you're accruing, you can accrue a percentage of dollars, which by the way can be posted as liability to the GL, or you can accrue hours per hours worked or hours per frequency. And now those do not get posted to the GL because we're capturing hours, not dollars. So how to find out the amount? So I am going to bring up this one here. So this is how we set up hours per hours work. The other option here for hours is hours per frequency. And you will have to identify the different percentage. So how do we get to that? Is let's say you work 37.5 hour weeks. And if we multiply that at 52 weeks, that's a total of 1950. So 19,500 hours. And let's say you want to, your first year vacation is 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is. So you would take that amount, you would multiply it by however many weeks that they are entitled to, and then you would divide those hours into this. So for example, if we have 4 weeks of vacation, which is 150 hours, so we would say 150 hours, and that would be divided by 1950. Oops. And that is the percentage that you're going to put in that setup so that when somebody is calculating the pay for a pay period that say has 37.5 hours, it's going to multiply the amount into that 37 hours to find out how many hours they've accrued. So for example, it could be 3.6 hours based on that 37.5. But that is how you find out. Now, let's say you work 2080. So 2080 is 40 hours a week. The same thing would apply is you would say equals 40 hours divide by 2080. And so that's just if you're doing 1 week, and then that would tell you what the percentage would be. So always apply the amount that the employee is entitled to, so how many weeks or how many hours that they are entitled to by the total hours for the year to get that mathematical equation. And then in your Sage 300 setup, then you would put that amount in here to identify how many hours. So I'm saying for 10 years of service, the employee is getting a percentage, and then beyond that, they're getting up from 99 years, they're getting a different percentage. So it could be that this is maybe 2 weeks and this is 4 weeks, for example. Okay, so that's how you find out how much to calculate hours per hours work to accrue.
Okay, perfect. I have one more question here.
Okay.
How to remove vacation accrual for employees who are now terminated but not terminated in Sage?
Okay, so I'm going to take that somebody has a vacation accrual and you want to remove it. So first things is you're going to turn off the accrual on their profile because you don't want it to calculate anymore. And if you want to zero out that accrual, then you would have to use transaction history to adjust that. So under transaction history, so to get to transaction history, I'm going to back up a second here. You're going to go to payroll employees, transaction history. You're going to bring up the employee, the date for which you want to make the change to. Very common for you in best practice to put in what you're doing here. So you can say adjust accrual. I think I just spelled it the same way twice. So you would bring up the code that you are going to adjust, your vacation code. So here's an example of a vacation accrual that we have for this particular employee. And you would adjust it. So if it's hours per hours worked or if it's dollars, depending on how you set that up. So the first thing you need to do is under where it says the type, it's not a payment. You want to be able to change that to be an accrual. You're adjusting an accrual portion, not the payment portion. Um, so what you would need to do is you would need to address the accrual portion. So this didn't let me change because I've moved off this field. So if that happens to you, just delete that one and go back. So I want to adjust the accrual because I don't want to pay the employee. If you want to pay the employee, you would put on a paid check, paid by either time card or updating their master. And depending whether it's if you're calculating hours or whether you're calculating dollars, then you would update the regular items. So in this particular code, this one is doing dollars. It's accruing a percentage. So because it's accruing percentage, I don't have the hours field available, but I do have the extended amount. So if this particular employee had let's go look to see how much they have first. And what I'll do is I'll remove it. That way you'll see. Okay, so this particular employee has $320. So we're going to come out of here. So we're going to say minus $320. And we're going to use today's date, right? Or we can use the date before. But I think, yeah, I'll use just the 12th. And then add. So basically what I've done is I've zeroed out the accrual. Now, one thing you have to remember is any entries that you do in transaction history, you have to ask yourself, will this affect or should it affect my general ledger? Because any entries that you do in transaction history, they do not affect the general ledger. So if, for example, we were posting the liability for this accrual to the general ledger, I would have to go into the GL and do an adjustment to reduce my liability by that $320 as well. Okay, so anytime you make a change here, ask what is the change? What is it impacting? Does it impact your general ledger? Does it impact your T4s? Does it impact your ROEs? And then make your changes accordingly. Okay, so I've made that change where I've decreased $320. I'm going to save, close. And now if I go back to activity for that employee, I should see that the vacation was adjusted. So I'm going to click on accruals. I'm going to increase the size of my screen, and now they're at 0. Previously, they had $320 in that account. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, perfect. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so I would like to thank everyone for attending BAASS's webinar on Sage 300 Payroll Vacation Q&A. All attendees will receive a copy of this webinar in a follow-up email. If you still have a question you need answered, you will receive a link in the follow-up email where you can submit your questions. To help us improve on future webinars, we kindly ask all attendees to participate in our webinar survey attached in the webinar recording email. Thank you again for joining us today.